It's your boss's husband and their neighbor's son and his best friend's cousin and her coworker's father, and the list goes on and on. What about these people threads them together? Each of them is living with mental illness. Hello, I'm Roger Wolf. For more than 20 years, I was the Northern Newsroom reporter for 9 News in Denver. I'm here today on behalf of the Larimer Center for Mental Health, a nonprofit organization serving people in Larimer County who live with mental illness. Mental illnesses can range in severity from mild depression to severe disability. But as common and treatable as mental illness is, there are still people enduring mental illness alone because of a lack of awareness, a lack of understanding of mental illness, and a lack of support from their community. The Center for Mental Health wants to change that.
Our job is to provide high-quality care to people with mental illness, and in doing that, we're committed to partnering with the people with mental illness that we serve, partnering with their families, and also partnering with other community providers and agencies on behalf of achieving the very best outcomes we can for long-term recovery for our consumers. Our job is also to provide people treatment in the least restrictive environment. We believe that people get well best in the communities in which they live and work, as opposed to being placed in institutions.
I think it's very clear that mental health conditions are not just figments of your imagination, of your mind. They certainly have a connection to your environment, the things that you go through and do and the choices that you make, but they're also very clearly related to the chemistry of your brain, how you're wired, how you're connected. There certainly is some very strong inheritable traits of depression and of anxiety and of bipolar disorder and some of the even more complicated mental health disorders.
When I think of children who suffer with mental illnesses, generally they can manifest in one of two ways. The child can look very withdrawn and depressed and become suicidal, or the child can act out. The first line of defense is with the parents, and getting the parents the psychoeducation to understand what's going on with their child, and then helping the parents find support, because no parent can do it alone.
As a mother, you know, I knew he was suffering somehow. When he was in his 20s, his father died when he was 21, and he was diagnosed with depression. And I thought, well, yeah, depression, it's just depression. You know, if you go any further with mental illness over beyond depression, then it's serious. I didn't hear from him for a couple of weeks, and I suddenly heard from him, and he sounded horrible, and I said, Nate, do you need some help? And he said, yes, Mom, I need some help. And when the sheriff's officers picked him up, his blood alcohol level was 0.793. They said, well, he'd been hearing voices, and I'm like, well, yeah, his blood alcohol was so high he should have been dead. So it still didn't hit me that he might have a serious mental illness. In the middle of the treatment, the psychiatrist said to me, your son is schizophrenic. I went, no, you don't understand. He's my son. I've known him. He's my friend. And they handed me a piece of paper and said, here's the information on the NAMI website. Maybe it'll help you. And a 2-page write-up on what schizophrenia was. And I was like, not my son, you know? Because that's what you feel from the stigma of mental illness. And what ended up happening was he left where I was in Montana and went back to where he had been living, closed his medical records to me, and 18 months later shot himself.
But it doesn't have to happen this way. With appropriate care, between 70 and 90% of those treated experience improved quality of life, with most becoming contributing members of society. With greater public dialogue and support of the Center for Mental Health, we can meet the needs of those suffering from mental illness and help build a healthier community.
We serve over 10,000 people a year. We have over 3,500 people in treatment a year that we serve. And the successes are measured collectively because we have demonstrated that people do recover from this illness, that the probability of being treated in a successful recovery from mental illness is greater than being treated for heart disease.
Most therapy is theory, and some of the theories are great, but there's not a lot of hard science behind it saying what works and what doesn't work. Larimer Center has invested an incredible amount of resources in bringing programs that have hard science behind them to the community and holding the therapists accountable for adhering to those models to help families be successful.
I can't imagine a month without the ability to coordinate care with them, to utilize their expertise in helping me with a patient that I can't give the complete care that they need. When a person has effective mental health care in a coordinated system such as Larimer Center for Mental Health, their outcomes are better and their overall health improves.
Now the drugs and the treatments that we have available to us can enable people who have schizophrenia and have manic depression, enable them to live a normal life and a happy life.
Mental illness can affect anyone at any time. You never know when mental illness may impact your life. But you don't have to stand by silently. You can make a difference in the fight against mental illness now. Join the Larimer Center for Mental Health in its mission to debunk the myths associated with mental illness, improve mental health services, and create awareness in the community so never again does a neighbor, a friend, a coworker, or a family member have to live alone with an untreated mental illness.